Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Uche and Joku. Sorry about that. Some of you saw us trying to go live and it didn't quite work out. I'm not at my usual location. I'm right now with my family in Wichita, Kansas. So as a result, I'm coming from this beautiful bedroom, which is my niece's bedroom, which I'm staying in for the next few days. So I totally forgot to send a message out earlier, letting you guys know that I won't be on. So I decided let me just go live in this beautiful light. So hopefully this doesn't turn anyone off. But I have to run in literally about 5 minutes, 10 at most. People waiting for me. So I rather than not do something tonight, I just want to use this time going live to respond to a very powerful um, response to one of my posts that was done by one of my colleagues. So what happened was earlier in the week I made a post and it was I believe on every platform, but but I know it was on LinkedIn, it was definitely on YouTube, and it was on Facebook. I'm not sure if it was on Twitter, but I talked about how how I would not be sending my children to public schools, and I gave a reason behind that. I also talked about the things that that in my times away from the school system and being able to reflect that concerns me, especially with being a parent and having two young children. So I'm very cautious about what I do for them, because again, I worked in the system and I am not against the system at all. What I mean by system, I'm talking about public schools. I'm not against it at all, but there are things that do concern me, and as a parent and with access and certain level of means, um, I am definitely exercising those means in making my decision of where they start their school. My daughter still has a year before she starts kindergarten. My son is going to be 3 in March, so he has some time, but not that much time if we're going to put him into pre-K. So the question is, what are we going to do? And I am definitely debating some options, and I'll share that with you as I come to a place when I start to finalize what those options are. But however, there was a response that was given to me that I thought was very powerful. And if you are on LinkedIn, you can go to my LinkedIn, look me up, and you can see the video, and then you can read the response. But what I'm going to do here is not. Out of respect for my colleague, I'm not going to say their name because I didn't get a chance to talk to them ahead of time to say, hey, I'm going to mention you on one of my posts. But I will read what they said because I think what they said was very, very powerful. So in response to my to um to to my video, this is what this colleague of mine said. So I don't agree with all of what you are saying, but I know where you're coming from. Having my own children in public slash traditional schools, there is an important purpose to public schools, and they are crucial in a democracy. I also believe that some degree of assimilation in American values and ideals is crucial, although unpopular by those who brought us wokeness. Um, if we follow the arrow of power, if we follow the arrow of power, it points to a federal Department of Education, which didn't always exist and shouldn't exist now, and which takes its marching orders from those in charge of massive corporations like Gates. Um, to serve their interests and whims. So I would argue that the state for uniformity testing, etc., is right on, but that the answer is to fight to bring back local control of schools, which is a right reserved for state and local governments. Okay, sorry that I did that. I'm dyslexic, so I have to like make sure that I'm hitting the words right. So everything that my colleague said here is 100% correct. Um, and and in the most ideal of circumstances, the sentence where it's said there is an important purpose to public schools and they are crucial to a democracy. I agree with that. You know, um, the whole notion of public education is not a brand new one. As an African, I can tell you that the whole notion of public education existed within African culture. Children were educated within the community, and the next sentence, which she says, I also believe that some degree of assimilation in American culture values is and ideals is crucial. Yes, that's why if you look at the list of schools that are the most successful around the world, they're schools that within where there's a assimilation of culture, meaning, and not even assimilation. Assimilation means you bring people in. No, there's already a level of uniformity because everyone who were there are all from that particular culture. So if you're educating Japanese children in Japan, there's a sense of belonging and understanding cultural values that are shared by all the people in those classrooms. And if you're in Switzerland, if you are in Mexico, in a lot of different countries, that's the case. But in America, this giant melting pot, it's so much more difficult to do that because everyone's bringing their own values. So the reality is this: whoever's in front of that classroom is going to be pushing their value, whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously. Whoever the principal is going to be pushing their value. It's to a certain degree. But then what she said is very right. You point to the federal government, and you keep pointing, you get to very powerful people who have the ability to make and impact um, laws and legislation that tilts education in one way, in one direction or the other. Okay, so that's very, very true. And then, and lastly, the whole notion um, of fighting the system to establish control, that is something that is that I'll always ask this question. I am a fighter for the system to make things right, but how long would that happen? And do I sacrifice my children in the system while I'm fighting the system? That's my question that I always have there. How do you find that balance? If you look at a lot of our freedom fighters who fought for different things, their children have suffered, and I'm not willing to do that for my children to have them suffer. And put them in the system while I'm fighting the system. So that's all I want to say. I gotta go. Love you all, and I'll talk to you all soon. All right, peace.